This is somewhat of a video response to Rob at McDojoLife, and I've been watching Rob on McDojoLife probably for a couple of years, but he had a recent video where he was responding to a couple of guys, and the subject was how to deal with bullies. And one guy said, well, basically violence is the answer, and once you hear more details, it's not that severe. And the other guy says, oh, well, you just ignore bullies and that'll take care of it. And it comes down to a similar argument to the nature versus nurture. Is our behavior based on nature, right? Or our DNA, our personalities, is that hardwired into us, or is it from nurture, how we are raised, our environment, the stimulus from how we experience our experiences? And it's both. Both things are correct. Some more than others, right? Sometimes twins who are separated at birth end up living very, very similar lives, but then there's also where twins were separated at birth, or twins who live together have totally complete opposite personalities and lives. And or people, siblings from the same family growing up in the same household have totally different personalities. So it's a little bit of both, right? It's how you're raised, it's what your DNA and your abilities kind of mold your personality. But so with that premise, how to deal with bullies, there are multiple ways that are effective. You just have to try different ways. There is no one way to deal with bullies, and sometimes the bully is getting bullied themselves, and that's their reaction to the stimulus, to getting bullied, either from a family member, from a parent, or from other people in their lives, right? They might be picked on by one group, but then they find a weaker group to pick on, so it just kind of cascades into just multiple bad situations. So one thing one guy said was, wow, that guy just what the heck? He's like riding two lanes. So one guy said his initial statement was, we have to deal with bullies by bullying them back. And yeah, sometimes that works, but I would not recommend that as the starting point. The other guy says, oh, just ignore them, right? And somebody said, and some third person in the conversation said, well, you should talk through the difficulties with the bully and try to understand them, kind of like the government sending out social workers during domestic violence calls, right? There is some effectiveness to that, but to try to apply that to every situation as the only solution is not effective. And so anyway, backing up, so violence, talk it through, or ignore bullies, right? Those three have a little bit may have effectiveness by themselves, or you have to use those three methods or more in combination to diffuse the situation. And sometimes there's just no helping diffusing the situation with the bully, or trying to get the bully to stop bullying you. I mean, I've tried, and I've been bullied as a kid. I came to the States towards the end of the Vietnam War, and I was 6 years old in elementary school, and I was was, I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but I was picked on pretty regular. I got beat up a few times, and even in middle school, I would get this family of 3 boys would pick on me pretty consistently until I beat the snot out of one of them. So yeah, sometimes it does come to violence, but that's not where you want to start. I would say, as a tiered approach that has a higher percentage of effectiveness, is I agree. You ignore the bully, you go away. Because sometimes people who, of course nowadays everybody's offended or feels bullied by the wind blowing. But sometimes a person who appears to be picking on you might be just a casual joke or how they talk to everybody. It's not personal, right? That's anybody who's been in the military. If you think you're being picked on, you need to get thicker skin, because I have friends in the military and prior military. If you heard us talk to each other, you would think we hated each other. But that's just the way we talk. That's just the way we talk to each other. We'll bust each other's balls all the time, and then we'll have a beer, and at the end of the night, I love you, man. No, man, I love you. That's just the way it is. So sometimes if you think you're being picked on, if it's just an instantaneous thing, I don't think you're being bullied. I think it's just a guy being who he is, and you're taking him the wrong way, or her. But if it's a pattern, then yeah, it could be construed as bullying. So at stage 1, just ignore them. Or if you're offended, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. And it keeps happening. Try to learn what that person's motivation is. Are they really picking on you? Are they just who they are? They're just a jerk to everybody. Then yeah, just ignore them, move on with your day. Now, when they start getting into your personal space or forcing you to do things or give them things, right? Now that is full-on bullying that you don't want to do, right? Hey, do my homework or I'll beat you up, or this and that. But if they're just name calling and just being a general jerk, but it's all verbal, just move on. You got better things to do with your life. When they start doing other things like taking your stuff or forcing you to do things that you don't want to do, then yeah, that's when you need to elevate. It's not your problem why they're doing it. Some people disagree. You don't want to be a snitch. Playground rules and all that. But hey, tell your parents, tell the administration, your teacher, or if you have to, call the cops on this guy or this girl. Try to diffuse the situation. The third level, that's the second level. The third level is if it comes down to, throwing hands, you got to be prepared. Like I said, in middle school, I was picked on pretty regular, and of course, I wasn't always the sharpest tool in the shed, and some of it might have been self-inflicted, because I didn't really learn how to deal with it back then, and so I escalated this situations that if I would have just ignored or walked away, it would have de-escalated itself, and no one would get hurt. So, but I started, I got in a fight with a guy who took my bike because I was an idiot and didn't lock my bike up, and so we got into a fight. And I beat him up as bad as he beat me up. I wouldn't say he was a bully, he was just being a jerk. So my sister paid for Taekwondo lessons. So I started learning Taekwondo, and it got me to be not such a hothead. And so then we became, I wouldn't say friends, but we were mutual. You know, we became civil. We didn't fight each other, and we actually had a little respect for each other, because I think his parents took him to karate class or Taekwondo class too. So we had a civil relationship after that, but it did come to blows. And then there was another time, I think it was still elementary school, where I've told this story before. Me and Eddie Spaghetti, you know, it was a mutual bullying thing. You know, he would call me Chinese, you know, chink, whatever kids called each other back then, and I called him Eddie Spaghetti, because he was kind of a chubby kid. And you know, we went to blows, and funny enough, probably about a month later, we were best buds. We would walk to school together. You know, he would invite me over to his house to play. His dad had a pool table in the backyard. We'd play pool, and you know, we were like best buds. So yeah, anyway, the conclusion, or the point of this, is that there is no one way to deal with bullies. You have to kind of feel it out. You have to do a little bit of research. But I would say, yeah, start with just ignoring the person. And I would say a majority of the time that would diffuse the situation. Now, and then, you know, if it escalates, then you have to escalate with the situation, and then eventually you will need to defend yourself, depending on how far the bully goes. And because there is that possibility where you will have to defend yourself, I would recommend getting training, but I would not start with the self-defense angle after you get the training. I would not start with that angle, and you know, escalate the situation all the way to throwing hands when you think you're being bullied. So anyway, that's all I got. I'm gonna go get me a hair's cut later.